You know, some days there's just good days, and then other days there's just even better days. This is an even better day. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's Netflix original TV series review of Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. This, of course, will follow episode 1, which is Lot 36, directed by Guillermo Navarro. So before I get into my actual talk of, the first episode of this Cabinet of Curiosities series that's created by Guillermo del Toro, I just want to let you know that there are many episodes releasing in this anthology. They're actually releasing in different days, 2 episodes per day for like 4 or 5 days throughout the week. First 2 episodes actually releasing on my birthday, which is kind of cool. But this is a series that I've been anticipating for quite a while. It's very much in line from what I've seen from the trailers of something like the Twilight Zone or Tales from the Crypt or Tales from the Dark Side. It's a series that looks like it actually delves into what Guillermo del Toro is known for, which is fantastical horror and, gruesome natures of people and all that stuff. And that's just what I look forward to in a Guillermo del Toro product. So this series, once I saw the trailers for it and then I saw what was coming, I was like, yes, bring it on. And then, of course, similar to like VHS, they brought in a lot of famous directors to kind of take over the projects and, lead off, of course, of Guillermo del Toro's scripts and his kind of lead and stance and so on and so forth. This is a unique experience for me because I'm going to talk about each episode and post a review for each episode instead of doing like the whole entire season at once, because I feel like this is a series, especially after watching the first episode, that is it is deserved of at least talking about each episode one by one. So you'll see 2 reviews per day, and then lead into the eventual conclusion of the season. Hopefully there will be a second season. So I just want to kind of lead off there. I'm looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to it for quite a while. And so let's go ahead and talk about the first episode, which of course is Lot 36. Of course, the first episode is of course Lot 36. It is actually directed by the director of photography for most of Guillermo del Toro's films. This guy is of course named Guillermo Navarro. It actually stars Tim Blake Nelson as a individual who is he's a guy that goes into storage units when the person's been evicted or the person dies, bids on them and collects all the stuff and tries to make money off of it, like Storage Wars in a lot of respects. This takes place during the 80s. The guy who owns Lot 36 has died of a heart attack. This character that Tim Blake Nelson plays, I think his name is Nick or something of that nature, ironically, who is very much a racist. He's very much a bigoted individual. He has a very dour, down look on life, and it shows the way his demeanor is, the way he acts, the way he portrays himself. The guy who runs the storage unit is actually in cahoots with him because they go back and forth trying to make money. And on top of everything, Tim Blake Nelson's character owes money to a loan shark of some sort. He's in trouble. He needs a lot of money. So you can understand the stress that he's going through, but he's also a very it's very much playing off a lot of what character tropes are in today's society and stuff like that. So you can kind of see in his characterization of what Tim Blake Nelson is doing. But he wins the lot. He wins Lot 36, and there's this woman, this older Spanish woman, comes in to pay her rent on the lot, on her units in the storage unit. But because she was late, they gave her eviction notice. She actually is trying to get her items, and she tries to play off the sympathies of the Tim Blake Nelson character. But of course, the way Tim Blake Nelson's character plays, he's an a-hole. He's a jerk. He's like, this is not my problem. You go deal with whatever you do. He hands her a broken lock and says, go deal with this. It's going to play out later on as you expect. But there's not really a lot of like what I would call supernatural stuff. You're not really sure what's going on. It's not until, the Tim Blake Nelson character, like I said, once again, it's not really given a name, but it's not until you kind of open up this storage unit that you kind of understand that there's some kind of history here. There's some kind of, this old man was at the unit, Lot 36, like every day of his life. He was constantly doing some weird antics because they watch on the videotapes and stuff like that. And in this unit, it's just it looks like a bunch of old crap. And then he finds a book that has, some people that were part of the Nazi regime in the World War II. And we kind of learned that this guy was the guy who owned Lot 36 was a very unscrupulous character. But it's not until he brings this seance table and this candelabra and some other things to this woman that he learns that this stuff is very, very valuable. And she finds a little button that opens up a compartment in the seance table which holds these books, which actually brings in this character who is named Rao, who is this very eclectic book collector, so on and so forth, very much into the dark arts and, occults and stuff like that. We learned that these books, there's supposed to be 4 of them, but 3 of them net, because they're very, very rare books that are very much occult style books, could net hit, the Tim Blake Nelson character 10,000. But if you find the other book, which is very much, it's like a book of seances and stuff like that, a book of like spells, they can net like 300,000, but this book is supposed to be known to be very dangerous. It's supposed to like catch on fire and stuff like that. But Tim Blake Nelson's character, being the way he is very much a skeptic. He just wants the money so he can pay off his bookie, his loan shark and stuff like that. And then it kind of leads to, in essence, the kind of conclusion of this episode where Rao and the Tim Blake Nelson character go to Lot 36, the storage unit, and they start looking for the other book because, Tim Blake Nelson's character is like, I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to be able to live my life and stuff like that. But what they find isn't like a false wall. Basically, they knock on the wall in the back of the storage unit because there's a joke earlier in the episode where he's like, Tim Blake Nelson's character is like, you gave me a small unit, I should get some of my money back that I paid for it. But he realizes that there's much more there. We also learned that the old man was actually an occult leader. He's part of the Third Reich. His family did some really unscrupulous things. They fled, as soon as World War II ended. As we know, with the Nazi regime and stuff like that, they were very much into the occult, so that very much plays into this episode. I do wish there was a little more explanation of who this guy was, but it's very much in that Tales from the Crypt style world, or like Twilight Zone, where we're not fully given a lot of information, but the kind of payoff is the interesting aspect to it, even though I think it ends kind of quickly, I guess you could say, but we'll get to that in a second. But they walk down this hallway. Tim Blake Nelson is like putting his hand up to his mouth because it smells, and they're finding a bunch of crosses with Jesus on it and stuff like that, a bunch of paper. They heard of there was this woman that disappeared that was the sister of this old man who's named Dottie Vollmer, and they actually find the body of Dottie in this kind of crypt where the body is actually being protected, or not being protected, but being held in bay by this pentagon, this like kind of a seance like circle. And what does the Tim Blake Nelson character do? Because he sees the 4th book, because he knows he wants the money, he breaks the circle and unfortunately unleashes the evil. Because what's really cool, what really helps that Guillermo del Toro is involved with, is the creature effects, and the creature ideas are always going to be top notch. And maybe he didn't work on this fully, but you can always tell the fingerprints of Guillermo del Toro, and especially with his DP directing this episode, you can definitely feel like the Pan's Labyrinth, or the very like ooey gooey creatures and stuff like that. It's a really cool thing. But you see the woman's face, and it's been caved in or kind of eaten out. You see like these tentacles, and once Tim Blake Nelson's character crosses that line, basically the creature wakes up. It kind of deforms the Dottie kind of leftover skin and stuff like that. And what's really cool is it's like a Resident Evil monster where all these tentacles are just coming all over the place, and it attacks and kills Rao. Of course, Tim Blake Nelson's character tries to take the book. It explodes in fire, and he actually tries to escape. He runs to the door, and of course the old Spanish lady sitting there, and he's like, let me out, I'm in trouble. And she holds up the lock, and she gets her last payback by letting him basically be killed off in the end of the episode. And of course he's of course taken from the creature. It's really cool. It's a really fun episode. Like I said, there are some issues with the simple fact of like, the guy who's running the storage unit is he ever going to wonder what happens to him? You never see like the after effects before it goes to like commercial, it goes to credit sequence. I think in the end, it has like such a great momentum build that like kind of payoff is so quickly in the last like 3 to 4 minutes that it just needs to end really quickly, and that does kind of it does deter from the whole sequence and the whole episode. But I think it's a strong start for the first episode of this anthology series, or the first season, or if it is a limited series, however it's looked at. I think Tim Blake Nelson is pretty great in this. I think the other actors are pretty great. They're mostly character actors that are brought in to, do certain things. People that you'll know and see before, but it's mostly a focus on Tim Blake Nelson's character. And so with that said, he sacrifices his ultimate payback because of his nature of, be careful what you do and be careful, who you screw over, because it'll come back and bite you in the ass later on. That's what happens with the woman. And of course, the light switches sequence in there is, a really big point, because, every time it clicks off after the timer goes off, the creature attacks in the darkness. And yeah, that's lot 36. Tim Blake Nelson, of course, doesn't live through it, so it's, he of course gets his fate, which is very much deserved. But with that said, that's lot 36, directed by Guillermo del Navarro. It's a really strong start. I would give this probably 8.5 out of 10. Like I said, if it weren't for the ending with being really quickly finished, I would have bumped it up to a 9. But for a first episode, with what Guillermo del Toro is trying to do, trying to be that master of suspense horror and stuff like that, the kind of the new updated version, I think this is a strong start. This is definitely better than what Jordan Peele did with the Twilight Zone. So with that said, the first episode, lot 36, an 8.5 out of 10. So anyways, with that said, like I said, there are 2 episodes a day for like 4 or 5 days, so I'll have 2 reviews. So we will be talking about Graveyard Rats next. But with that said, that's the end of this video. As always, let me know in the comments below what you thought of lot 36. Did you like it overall? What was your overall feeling on the ending? All that good stuff. But as I always do, if you like these videos, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button, and we'll see you for the next episode, which is Graveyard Rats. Peace out, guys.